I got this video in my recommended and I thought it was a cool concept, but I don't like serious movie reviews, as you can probably tell from what I upload. So today we're going to be putting the movies I've watched in May into a tier list. The month started off with somewhat of a doozy with Ben 10, Race Against Time. This movie is not what I remember it being. Ben has to stop an alien invasion from happening, but I don't remember an adult being stuck inside a child's body for the later half of the film. If you want a full recap on it, I made a video you can click on in the top right corner. I'd put this movie in C tier. Up next, I watched The Lost World from 1960. I randomly found it when I was watching cable for the first time in like 8 years. The description said a girl in pink pants goes to the Amazon and finds dinosaurs. See, like, I thought that this movie has to be a must-watch. It just sounds so stupid. The dinosaurs turned out to be a lizard and an alligator and plastic spikes attached to them, so this was a wampus flugel of a movie. D tier. I get a little wacky and decide to watch Don John. It's about Joseph Gordon-Levitt having a corn addiction, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. The message was great because obviously there's people out there having an addiction to yoinking their skadoodle, and it shows the horrors of what could happen if you get addicted to watching that stuff. The horrors, of course, being Scarlett Johansson catching you in the act and then going through your entire browser history. Brie Larson is in the movie and she's on her phone the entire time, even while in church, but somehow changes the entire trajectory of the film when she looks up from her phone to say her only 2 lines in the film, making her the greatest character in all of cinema. B tier. Chef. After all the memes from 2015 and 2016 with Max Mofo, iDubbbz, and Filthy Frank mentioning this movie in every single video of theirs, I had to watch it. It's about a chef, duh, and he wants to do his own shit, but his boss says nuh-uh, so he does his own shit anyway. It's supposed to be a feel-good movie, but the entire setup to Jon Favreau becoming his own boss was just depressing. He had to learn how to use Twitter for the first time, and that was kind of bonkers. The movie dates itself constantly by bringing up Twitter, which is now X, and Vine. That will be the last time I'm ever calling it X. I tried some of the beignets from the movie a few days later, and they tasted exquisite. 2.5 men put cornstarch on their balls, the half being a child. B tier. Killer Bean Forever is a double flusher of a movie, literally. It's basically John Wick, but animated. Imagine instead of people killing John Wick's dog, people were having a party and the music was too loud, so Johnny Boy drives over there and finishes all of them. Jokes are funny and the action kicked ass. Highly recommend. B tier. Police Academy has a banger theme song, but I guess I liked this movie a lot more when I was younger. I love this movie, but compared to these other ones, it didn't hold up as much as I thought it would. It's about people joining the police academy and the shenanigans they get up to. It had some funny scenes, but it would be a while before I watch it again. This dude, who is probably just as tall as me, rips seats out of a car just so he can fit, and I understand that struggle way too much. It's a classic, so I'll give it a C tier. The Mask was a surprising rewatch for me. I used to love this movie as a kid, but I don't think it holds up that much. It's about Jim Carrey finding a mask that transforms him into a guy who maxed out his charisma and pickpocketing tree because he robs a bank and almost bangs a couple of women. I'm just finding out that this movie is PG-13, so all of the bloody violence, kidnapping, and pulling a condom out of a pocket instead of a balloon animal makes sense now. I probably should not have watched this when I was like 6 years old. D tier. Hobo with a Shotgun is about a hobo with a shotgun. There's nothing more to say about it. I couldn't wait for this movie to be over. It felt like it was never going to end. The hobo ends a bunch of crime, but the crime was just terrible to watch. Someone had to eat glass and have it filmed. I thought this was going to be a stupid yet awesome movie like Christmas Bloody Christmas, but I was wrong. F tier. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was a very surprising sequel. I've seen the first one a bunch of times, and I think the second one is better than the first. Don't kill me. It brings Freddy into a direction I didn't think they were going to take, but I'm glad they went the possession route. I didn't expect this to be a complete banger. It's about people moving into the house from the first movie, and Freddy, still looking like salami, possesses one of the kids, and there's just so many cool scenes. Give it a shot. My eyes were glued to the screen. I had this on in the background while I was editing my Ben 10 video, and halfway through the movie, I had this on while my editing software was on in the background. It just stole all of my focus. A tier. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. This movie made my focus go back to editing. It was a cool concept, and I like how they brought Nancy back from the first, but it just couldn't top the second one. This one takes place in a psych ward, and Nancy goes there as an intern and gets along with all the kids who are being troubled by Freddy. The movie was eh. I don't see how people think it's the greatest in the series. It might just be my taste in bad 80s movies, because I like movies like Bloodhook, Hack-O-Lantern, and Night of the Creeps. D tier. This next one is a movie you probably forgot about, Sky High. This is such a cool movie. I need to see more Marvel and DC stuff get compared to this film. Everything about this film is great. The characters are great. They somehow got Kurt Russell to be the main guy's dad. Sky High is about a superhero high school, pretty much like My Hero Academia. And the main guy doesn't have superheroes yet, kind of like in My Hero Academia. It's just a good comfort movie, and depending on when you're watching this, this will be the next big movie video I make. A tier. And of Violent Nature is a film I desperately had to watch after watching the trailer because it does something that no film has ever done before, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong. It's a slasher horror film, but it's in the perspective of the killer. Throughout 99% of the movie, we follow the killer around, and while that may seem cool, it's kind of like Death Stranding. There's a lot of walking, but the walking pays off with creative kills and what felt like an 8-minute unedited death scene from one of the victims and a wood splitter. This is an IFC movie, which means it was made independently instead of having giant companies make the film, and in some parts, it was just so comforting. The shots at night have a bunch of noise because the camera couldn't shoot that well in the dark, and I loved seeing it. It felt like I was watching one of the tapes from Sinister. When I inevitably make a short film, or who knows, maybe a feature-length film, I want to be able to capture the feel that this movie gives off. Another A tier. The last movie I watched in May is Life. It stars Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal in a movie that's basically Alien. They go up into space, find an alien, study it, then it slowly takes out each crew member one by one. This was another movie where I was glued to the screen. The scenes were tense, and when I got to the ending, it really pissed me off in a good way. The ending was great, but also so shitty. It was the bad ending in a choose-your-own-adventure book. It got to me so much. There's some spoilers ahead for the movie, so go to the timestamp on screen if you're planning on watching this. This movie gave Ryan Reynolds the Suicide Squad treatment, where Pete Davidson is in all the trailers, but he dies off at the beginning of the movie. Ryan has such an early death scene, and it's gory. I would never want his death to happen to anybody. The movie ends with two people in separate escape pods. One person doesn't have the alien, and they're heading towards Earth, and the other has the alien on board going into deep space, so it would never reach Earth. Guess what? I said the ending pissed me off, so obviously, the safe one is barreling out into space, and the one with the alien on board lands on Earth. People open his escape pod, and the scene cuts to black. Wouldn't that piss you off? A tier. This is the tier list for May. If I were to choose a movie to recommend out of this list, I would probably have to go with Sky High because it's just a lighthearted kids movie that doesn't weigh anything down on your soul like some other movies I've watched this month. I left the tier list template in the description so you can make your own ranking and tweet it at me or tag me on Instagram so I can see your tastes in movies. I might make a ranking of what I've watched in April video if I get my Sky High video out soon enough because it's got the Fred movie a couple times on there. And I'm going to show you a sneak peek of what I've watched in June so far. That's right, I didn't like Lord of the Rings. I'll explain why in my next rankings of the month. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for 5,903 subscribers. And if you haven't watched my last video yet, it's on the live-action Ben 10 movie.